"Ma'am, your clearance doesn't show up anywhere." "Good," she said. "That means it's working." The exchange lasted 3 seconds, but it was enough to make the young gate sergeant at Naval Support Facility Graywater Bay forget how to breathe. The woman in front of him hoodie pulled tight. Jeans worn at the knees didn't look like command material. Her hands were rough, nails short. Her boots carried the salt stains of distance. And yet her eyes, they were the kind that measured threats instead of people. He blinked, scanned her ID card again, saw the line that read, "Administrative support, temporary transfer," then shrugged, handing it back. "Welcome aboard, ma'am." The metal gate groaned open. She didn't answer, just walked. The morning fog rolled across the asphalt like smoke from a far-off fire. The Pacific wind bit through her jacket, carrying the tang of fuel and rain. Somewhere on the pier, a crane squealed, radios chattered. A gull screamed overhead and vanished into the gray. No one noticed her, and that was exactly how Rear Admiral Mira Calder wanted it. Rear Admiral Mira Calder, the youngest flag officer in fleet history, the tactician who once guided a strike group through the narrow throat of the Persian Gulf under enemy fire and brought every ship home, the officer who turned near disasters in the Pacific into quiet, classified victories. Senior officers whispered her name like a myth wrapped in steel. Sailors on distant decks spoke of her as a storm, fierce on arrival, calm in departure, leaving the sea steadier than before. But none of that was written on the plain plastic badge clipped to her hoodie. Only 2 words she had chosen herself: administrative transfer. Inside the administration building, the air smelled of burnt coffee and ozone from overworked printers. Phones rang, unanswered, somewhere down the hall. Someone laughed too loudly, nerves disguised as humor. "New transfer?" asked Lieutenant Commander Grace Holloway, not looking up from her screen. Her hair was pulled into a regulation bun that had lost the battle with stress hours ago. "Yes, ma'am. Administrative support," Holloway grunted. "We're 6 months behind on supply audits. Welcome to the swamp." She gestured at rows of cubicles. Sailors hunched over terminals glowing with spreadsheets and requisition codes. "Find an empty desk. If the system locks you out, don't panic, happens to everyone." Calder nodded, scanning the room like a drone feed mapping terrain. Half the monitors flickered between frozen screens and error codes. Boxes labeled rotor assemblies MH60S lined the wall like barricades. The air carried that low hum every base develops when good people stop believing the system can be fixed. She slid into an empty chair. It creaked. The screen blinked to life, rows of requests scrolling by. Parts delayed. Priority deferred. Shipment pending approval. The same excuses, different years. Across the room, a petty officer smirked. Another miracle worker. "Huh, don't worry. You'll be crying in the break room by Friday." Calder looked up, voice even. "I don't cry easy." The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, just tired. People protecting what little pride they had left. Hours blurred. By sundown, the office was half empty. A storm brewed offshore, the wind pressing against the windows with slow, heavy intent. Calder leaned back, scanning shipment logs again. Someone had overwritten critical data, 3 months of maintenance parts marked delivered that never arrived. Whoever did it knew exactly how to hide it. A low whistle slipped between her teeth, not surprise, but recognition. She'd seen this before, in Bahrain, in Diego Garcia, when complacency spread faster than corruption ever could. Her phone buzzed once. A message from a number not listed anywhere. "Observation complete." She typed back, "Not yet. The infection runs deep." She powered the device off before the reply came. Lightning flashed over the bay, throwing the base into stark white relief cranes frozen mid-motion, vehicles lined like silent witnesses. Then darkness returned, and Admiral Mira Calder, hiding in plain sight, closed her eyes, already planning her next move. Sound off in the comments, where's your post? Soldier Mission 2 deploys any moment. Hit subscribe and stand by. The mockery started before sunrise. New clerk. Heads up forms bite. A petty officer called as Mira Calder passed the bullpen. Laughter flared, small and mean. Then died when she didn't react. She walked like she had somewhere more important to be. Because she did. She stopped at a cubicle where Seaman Turner stared at a frozen inventory screen. Knuckles white on the mouse. "Ma'am, I think I broke it," he whispered. "You didn't." Calder said, "Show me where it refused to think." He clicked open a requisition chain. Line items blinked, delivered in green. The proof images were barcodes identical, stamped across 3 months like a rubber seal. Calder leaned closer. Zoom the 4th decimal in the timestamp. Turner frowned. Did it and froze. The metadata didn't move. A static stencil pretending to be a signature. That's not a receipt. She said, "That's camouflage." He looked sick. "They'll hammer me for this." "They won't," Calder answered, "because you're going to help me take it apart. Mini twist, then movement." She slid into the opposite chair, fingers a blur. "The training manual says F7 closes the loop." Turner offered. "Manual's wrong." She replied. "The patch changed it. Watch." She keyed the buried hot path, bypassed a phantom confirmation step, and the error stack shed like rust. The backlog collapsed from a wall to a corridor she could walk through. Turner exhaled like he'd been underwater. "How did you?" "Once upon a time. I wrote a version of this," she said, almost to herself. It made sense then. Across the yard, the motor pool smelled like hot oil and salt. Chief Petty Officer Riley Cole didn't stop moving. "We're deadlining vehicles because paper says we're ready," he snapped, waving a clipboard. "That how you want it?" "Ma'am, I want the truth," Calder said. "What keeps them parked?" Cole slapped the fender of an Oshkosh MTVR. "Rotor packs for the MH-60S never showed. We cannibalized a flight line tug to keep the Seahawks breathing. That's not sustainable or legal. Unauthorized cannibalization is a reportable event," Calder said evenly. "Who signed off on the workarounds?" Cole looked away. "No one signs off on desperation." Mini climax. Calder ducked under the chassis, flashlight cutting the dark, and found a jumper cable someone had left snaked through a loom quick fix. Slow fire. She clicked her tongue once. Cole heard it and swore softly. "Yeah," he said. "That's what fear does. It chooses speed over survival." "Not today," Calder said. "Tag it. We'll rip and replace." And Chief logged the cannibalization. "We fix rot by naming it." The communications hub vibrated with heat. Fans whined. Status lights blinked a tired yellow. Senior Chief Daniel Pike didn't bother with hello. "If one more ANPRC 1 and 17G gets pulled to cover base nets, I'm routing tower traffic through smoke signals," he barked. "We're past red line. What's your worst vulnerability?" Calder asked. He jabbed a finger at a rack. "Backup paths, creative. Somebody bypassed a dead module with an unshielded jumper behind the panel. It works, until lightning says it doesn't." Calder opened the panel. The wire was there. Exactly where she didn't want it to be tucked like a secret. She followed it to a label, RFBYP3. A neat signature mark. Deliberate. Not lazy. She met Pike's eyes. "Who's been clearing your maintenance tickets?" He gave a humorless laugh. "LTJG Peterson, Paper Tiger. Everything's green on his dashboard. Everything's green," Calder repeated. Voice. Flat. "Of course it is. Back in M4 Logistics." LCDR Grace Holloway dragged a hand down her face, eyes shot with sleepless red. "This system is dead." "Calder," she said. "It eats good people and spits out excuses." "It's not dead," Calder said. "Quiet. It's starved." Holloway stared. "You talk like you've run a base. I listen like I've lost ships." Mini reversal. Calder spread a printout her red ink map over the warehouse maze, motor pool choke points, and comms failovers. Holloway's posture shifted suspicion to attention. You built this in an hour, Holloway asked. In 20 minutes, Calder said. The other 40 were me checking which lies could kill us. They worked until the windows went black. Rain tapped the glass. Testing it. Somewhere. Metal boomed like a dropped ramp. Calder stood, stretching the ache from her shoulders. We start with 3 actions: purge the fake receipts, stop cannibalizations without engineering sign-off, and shield that comms bypass before the sky punishes us. Holloway nodded, jaw set. You get me the language. I'll get you the signatures. Calder's mouth twitched. Deal. Turner hovered in the doorway. Pale. Ma'am, I traced those barcode images. They weren't uploaded from the warehouse. They were pasted from a template on the XO approval share. The folder's owner is his voice failed. He swallowed hard. Say it, Calder said. Peterson, but the access chain lists Commander David Reyes as secondary. Silence hit the room like cold water. Holloway's face drained. The XO Calder's eyes didn't move. They narrowed, calculating, or someone using his shadow to stay invisible. A low tone bled through the ceiling, one long descending beep, then another, louder. The lights flickered. The building exhaled and caught again. Pike's voice crackled over the internal line, clipped and too calm. N4 comms. We just took a surge. Primary arrays wobbling. Towers losing chunks of UHF. We've got static priority inbound. Possible C-40A on approach with mission kits. The third tone didn't stop. It deepened until it became a feeling in their bones. Holloway grabbed her cover. If primary drops, backup's dirty. Calder finished, and the bypass is a fuse. The power dipped. Monitors blinked. Outside, the wind found a new gear. Calder picked up the desk phone. Voice level. Eyes cold. This is administrative support. Patch me to tower. Now. The line clicked once, then died. The phone gave one last click and died in Mira Calder's hand. The light sagged. The ceiling tone deepened until it vibrated in bone. Rain punched the glass like thrown gravel. Move, Mira said, already out of her chair. N4 logistics erupted, papers grabbed, covers snatched. LCDR Grace Holloway was on her heels, down the corridor. The first breaker coughed, and half the hallway went brown. They hit the stairwell at a run. The communications hub ran hot and loud. Fan wash and metal breath. Status boards blinked between yellow and red. Never green. Senior Chief Daniel Pike had a headset half on, half off. Eyes glued to a rack where a tiny LED pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Primary's wobbling. He said, backup's creative. Not today. Mira slid to the main console. Voice level. Words clipped. Tower traffic to UHF 325. Pike. Eyes on the backup chain physically. Not on the screen. Ground that dirty jumper. Now. He didn't argue. He vanished into the rack aisle with a toolkit and a curse. Mira stabbed the internal line. Motor pool. Chief Cole. The wind answered, roaring through his end. I want a MEP 806B on this building. Parallel feed. If the grid burps again, we do not go dark. Copy. But the bay door's jammed and the lockouts are override it. Cut it. Whatever you need, you have authority. A beat. Then on it. She swung to a junior airman hunched at the tracking console. Panic climbing his throat. Ignore automated positions. Call every unit. I want human confirmation for any vehicle we might need on the runway. Yes, ma'am. Holloway leaned in. Voice low. You're giving orders like a clerk with good instincts, Mira said without looking up. Stay with me. The tower feed crackled in, ragged with rain. Sentinel. We're getting you broken. Fuel trending minimums. Advise. Mira reached for the spare headset. The duty officer flinched as she took his place. Sentinel Tower. This is operations control, she said. Tone a blade. Shift to approach 325. Confirm when on channel. All other traffic hold. Silence. Then a different voice, older. Unsure. Operations control. On whose authority are we emergency procedures under local NATOPS and base commander delegation? Mira cut in. Move. Now. Holloway stared like she was seeing a ghost in plain clothes. The audio cleaned as the tower flipped. The aircraft came back like someone lifted it from a well closer. Steadier. Sentinel. We read you 5x5 on 325. Copy. Maintain present heading. You've got gusting crosswinds. Moderate shear. Tower will vector you through a softer slice of the cell. Expect chop. Pike's voice crackled from the racks. Found your sinner. Unshielded jumper sitting behind RFBYP3. Not field approved. Whoever did it signed it with tape like a joke. Shield it and bond it. Mira said, give me 30 clean seconds. Working. Mini-climax, the board steadied, then plunged. The room gasped as a low-voltage dip rolled through like a wave. Outside, a transformer popped somewhere. A white flash strobed the window. And everything went darker without going black. Generator. 2 minutes, Cole's voice wind-shredded. Fierce. We had to cut the chain. Somebody locked the bay from the outside. Holloway's eyes snapped to Mira. Locked! From the outside. Later! Mira said, right now. We keep the sky. The duty officer hesitated. Protocol warring with fear. Ma'am, we can't run dual feeds without the UCAN for 3 minutes. Mira said, keep your hands off my frequency and back the tower. The tower operator. Younger than the fear in his voice. Came in fast. Cargo 1. Turn right heading 095. Wind 180 at 34. Gusting 46. Altimeter 29er69er. The aircraft. Calm as teeth. Cargo 1. Right 095. Turner slid into the doorway. Rain on his shoulders. Eyes huge. Ma'am, those fake receipt barcodes. They were pasted from a house template on the XO approval share. Owner tags to LTJG Peterson. Secondary access shows CDR Reyes's card just before the surge. Holloway flinched. The XO was in the hub card was. Turner said, or a copy. Mira didn't move. Her voice didn't change. Document it. Print the log. Put it under your shirt and do not talk. He swallowed. Aye. Pike reappeared. Forearms marked by fresh dust. A line of copper wire draped around his neck like a scarf. I've got a fast and dirty shield. It'll hum, but it won't arc. Make it sing, Mira said. He slammed the panel, tightened a last lug, and nodded once. The generator hit with a low animal growl. The boards brightened. The wobble eased. Cargo 1. You are cleared to continue. Expect moderate turbulence on short final. Vehicles will meet you. Roll out long. Sentinel. Cargo 1. Fuel state not comfortable. A slow breath moved through the room, like a crew bracing for impact. Mini-reversal, the tower's ground screen jittered. The vehicle overlay ghosted 3 positions at once, stacking icons. Mira didn't blink. Manual confirms only. Call Security 1, Fire 1, Med 2. Park everyone else. No movement without eyes on. Aye, ma'am. Wind screamed under the door. Water pushed in as a silver slice across the tiles. Holloway pressed a hand flat to the console. Steadying it like that would steady the world. If this goes bad, it won't. Mira said, we already paid early. The radio turned intimate. The pilot's breath loud in the throat mic. Sentinel, we've got the runway. Visual intermittent. Mira's voice went soft steel. You're good. Keep it. You're through the worst. Another flash, another boom. The backup chain hummed. Then held, Cargo 1, touchdown. The room didn't cheer. It exhaled. Holloway's shoulders dropped a fraction. Pike sagged against the rack, laughing once, too bright. Like disbelief found a voice. The duty officer wiped his face and realized his hand shook. Mira took off the headset, handed it back. Log the frequency change and weather impact. She said, make sure the report tells the truth, not the convenient version. The tower clicked over to ground. Businesslike again. The way adrenaline pretends it was never here. Cole burst in a minute later, soaked to the ribs, eyes blazing. We stay tied to the generator until the grid stops lying. He said, no one's pulling my line. Try and stop them. Holloway muttered, I'll sign whatever keeps us breathing. Turner returned. A page under his jacket, paper damp, ink stubborn. He handed it to Mira with his mouth pressed hard. Access log. Reyes. 20 minutes before the surge. Holloway looked from the page to Mira. Question forming. If he footsteps sounded in the hall. Firm. Coming fast. The door swung open. Commander David Reyes filled the frame-pressed uniform. Rain on the shoulders. Ribbons perfect. His eyes cataloged the room. The generator hum. The improvised bonding strap. The headset still warm on the desk. Then they found Mira. They paused. Not confusion. Recognition that had no place to hide. You, he said softly, like the word wasn't for anyone else. You're not admin. The room seemed to shrink. Pike's jaw set. Holloway didn't breathe. Rain hammered the glass. Somewhere outside, the C-40A rolled to a stop and the first cargo door hissed open. Reyes stepped in, closed the door behind him with 2 fingers, and without looking away, turned the lock. Let's talk about who really turned this base dark, he said. The lights flickered once, then held. The silence that followed felt like a countdown. The lock clicked behind Commander David Reyes. Rain hammered the glass. The generator throbbed like a second heartbeat. Let's talk, he said. Who killed the lights? After we secure this room. Mira Calder answered. Reyes's jaw flexed. He reached into his pocket slow, horizontal palm, and set down a Faraday pouch inside a base access card. His own. I found that in the ceiling grid over comms. He said, somebody's been ghosting me. If you're the person I think you are, you already knew. Senior Chief Pike slid a blade along a conduit trunk, pried back a panel. A pinhole lens stared back. Red LED faint as a coal. Camera on pew, he muttered, outside the inventory, fed from a line that shouldn't be live. Mini-climax LCDR Holloway recoiled like it had burned her. They wired our nerve center. Reyes didn't blink. I locked the door because the hall camera is theirs. This one's ours now. Mira gave him a fraction of a nod. Who's they? Commander LTJG Peterson for sure. Reyes said, and someone upstream. Tickets I flag vanish. Receipts I never signed appear green. And tonight, Bay lockouts I didn't authorize. Your card shows in the event log, Mira said. His answer was immediate, cloned. I filed it. Quietly. I was waiting for the surge to flush them. It landed like a confession and a dare. The room held its breath. Mira picked up the Faraday pouch. Wait it. You just volunteered to stand between me and a firing squad if you're lying. Reyes met her eyes. I'd rather stand between you and whoever's gutting this base. Another breaker coughed. The board steadied. Out on the tarmac. The C-40A rolled to a stop. The storm began to back off. Light lifting by degrees, Mira said. Senior Chief kill every unauthorized lens. Chief Cole, hold the generator and chain your signature to it. Holloway locked the receipt pipeline and quarantined Peterson's access. And you? Reyes asked. Mira's mouth almost smiled. I've got a morning formation. Dawn arrived scrubbed clean, as if the water had remembered mercy. The parade field at Naval Support Facility Graywater Bay glinted with pooled rain. Rows of uniforms stood perfect and still. The band's brass carried across wet concrete and salt air. The rumor had outrun the ceremony, the new clerk who spoke like a battle group commander, the woman who redirected an aircraft with a sentence and a tone. Attention on deck. A figure stepped from the side entrance. Not the rear, dress whites cut simple and precise, shoes that caught the sun, eyes that did not search for permission. Rear Admiral Mira Calder crossed the dais. The silence that followed wasn't awe. It was recognition finally catching up with memory. Holloway went pale, then straightened until her collar bit skin. Pike's mouth opened, then shut on a smile he didn't allow. Chief Cole, grease still ghosting his knuckles, stood motionless at the edge of a sea of salutes. Mira returned them. Once. Crisp. Then the mic found her voice. I spent my first week here as administrative support. She said, I wanted to see this base the way you see it when no one important is watching. No one shifted. Even the wind flattened to listen. I saw systems that failed you. I saw good people held together by bad workarounds. I saw fear making decisions. Her gaze found Holloway. I also saw fight. She called names that meant something now because the night had stamped them in. Lieutenant Commander Grace Holloway, effective immediately. You lead Greywater's logistics reform cell. Your orders are to fix and to teach. Holloway stepped out, boots striking water. Salute sharp. Her eyes were glassy and unbroken. Chief Petty Officer Riley Cole, you will direct maintenance readiness for motor pool and flight line support. Nothing moves without your signature. Nothing lies under it. Cole swallowed. Hands locked at seam. Aye, ma'am. Senior Chief Daniel Pike, you own the truth in our signals. Build redundancy. Audit everything. When it hums by your standard. Pike's grin flashed like a cut. Gladly. Mira let the cadence fall. As for the rest, hear me from this day on. We fix problems before they become excuses. Mini-climax applause swelled and cracked the morning open. It died quick, like everyone remembered where they were. 2 masters-at-arms moved through the front rank. LTJG Peterson collar perfect. Smile fixed, watched them approach with disbelief turned theatrical. For what he barked. On what grounds misappropriation, falsification, interference with base safety systems. Reyes's voice. Steady. From Mira's right shoulder. Peterson laughed once. Too high. You can't touch me without Mira lifted a hand. The MA's closed. Cold metal told him what due process would confirm. He stared at Reyes, then at Mira. Something ugly breaking in his eyes. You think you're in charge, he hissed. Mira's voice was gentle. I know. They took him. Boots splashing. The formation stood like a wall. The band didn't play. The wind returned in a slow exhale. Consequences began immediately. Holloway's team fanned out with clipboards and authority that felt fresh. Cole's crew tagged vehicles, red to yellow to green. Pike's techs pulled panels, labeled cables, killed unauthorized power like cutting tumors. Loss revealed itself in daylight cracked seals, swollen pallets. Training hours stolen by forms that led nowhere. No funerals today. But the ghosts were their missions that hadn't launched. Help that arrived late enough to be a story instead of a save. Mira walked the edge of the field. Reyes matched her pace. Half a step back XO posture. New alignment. You going to ask me why I didn't come to you sooner, he said quietly. You did. Mira answered. Last night, when it counted. A runner approached at speed, Seaman Turner, soaked, breath controlled like he'd practiced it. He handed Holloway a folder, then looked to Mira for permission. She gave a small nod. Turner kept his voice low. We quarantined the receipt pipeline, but we found something else in the audit trail, a standing order. Who's Reyes asked. Turner hesitated. Signed at Fleet Logistics Center Point Halcyon, flag level key. He passed Mira the printout. The heading was clean. The signature block was not vague. It bore her name, her rank, her cipher. A chill cut through the sun. Reyes read over her shoulder. A muscle in his cheek ticking. That's impossible. It's used to divert critical mission kits to a separate routing node. Turner said, not here, a blind warehouse. All the green receipts point there, and, ma'am, the signature ID matches yours. Mira didn't speak. She studied the line of code below the block. The one no forged stamp gets right by accident. The checksum passed. The key was real. How many bases, she asked. 3 we can prove, Holloway said. Maybe 5. Pike's radio hissed to life on Cole's belt. Urgent and wrong. Comms to field new traffic on a reserved channel. Origin shows regional command. Priority override. Message reads, stand down all local audits, await further instruction. Reyes looked at Mira. Mira lifted her head to the horizon where the storm had been and something darker waited. Senior Chief, she said softly, eyes never leaving the distance. Is that channel supposed to exist? Pike listened. Face going hard. No. Admiral. Not on our net. The band. By reflex. Started the first bar of a march and died on the second, confused by nothing they could see. Mira folded the forged order once, slid it into her pocket, and spoke to no one and everyone. They didn't steal our parts. She said they stole my name. The wind carried the last of the storm out to sea. The hum of electronics replaced the thunder. But the tension stayed the same. Inside the command building, Rear Admiral Mira Calder stood by the situation board. Beside her coffee sat the counterfeit directive. Edges curled. Ink still smelling faintly of ozone. Commander David Reyes, her operations chief, leaned against the desk. Voice low. They forged your cipher. Ma'am, that means it came from fleet level, maybe beyond Halcyon. Mira nodded once. They didn't just steal supplies. They built a mirror chain under our names. LCDR Holloway exhaled hard. We've been fixing their mess for months. Thinking we were saving the system, Chief Cole dropped a report onto the table. Motor pool's clean now, but the network upstream's still dirty. Mira's tone sharpened. Then we trace it until the tunnel ends in daylight. The room fell silent. Then Senior Chief Pike burst in, headset around his neck. Admiral encrypted fleet traffic. Level Omega priority. He tapped the speaker. A woman's calm voice filled the room. Admiral Calder, terminate all audits. Transfer authority to Fleet Command Halcyon. Transport en route. Acknowledge. Reyes frowned. That's not a recall, it's a leash. No verification string, Mira asked. None. Pike said. Check sums off by 2 bits. Mira's eyes narrowed, which means they wanted us to see it. Holloway straightened. Then this isn't over. It's cleanup. 40 minutes later, the VH-60N Nighthawk cut through the mist, its rotors chewing the dawn. The seal on the fuselage gleamed Fleet Command Halcyon. Cole muttered. Inspectors, or whoever wears their uniforms. Mira didn't look away from the window. No one talks. No one salutes until I give the word. The rotors thudded to a stop. 2 officers stepped out pressed whites. Perfect ribbons. Commodore Laskin led. Smile too polished to reach his eyes. Admiral Calder, he said. We're assuming oversight per fleet directive. Hand over your operational keys. Mira's voice stayed calm. Directive number. He hesitated. You received it. I received a forgery. She said, signed with my own cipher. A muscle jumped in his jaw. His hand twitched toward his inside pocket, too deliberate to be nervous. Cole moved first, stepping in front of Mira. Don't! Laskin's aide lunged toward the comm panel. Pike hit the main breaker. Darkness swallowed the room. When backup power surged, chaos had already chosen sides. Laskin and his aide were face down under 2 MA's boots, badges stripped bare. Reyes picked one up, turning it in the red emergency light. Halcyon stopped issuing this model years ago. Counterfeit, just like the orders. They sent their cleanup team, Mira said quietly, and they thought we wouldn't notice. For a long moment, no one moved. Only the generator's heartbeat filled the space. Then Pike looked up from his console, face pale. Admiral, the network feed we cut last night, it's live again. Not from Halcyon, from Washington. The word landed like a silent explosion. Holloway's throat tightened. How high does it go? Mira turned toward the window, beyond the tarmac. The sea had turned gold, calm and deceptive, higher than we can reach. She said softly, but not higher than we can see. She folded the forged order, slid it into her uniform, and faced her team. We clean our house, she said. Then we climb the chain until there's nowhere left for them to hide. The red light flickered over tired faces, defiant, scarred, unbroken. Outside, the storm was gone, but above the horizon, clouds began to rebuild quiet, deliberate. Mira's voice barely carried. They thought the storm was over. A pause, It's just changing command.